And good evening, everybody. Welcome to the NPCs Weekly News live stream for October 30th, 2020. This week, Cyberpunk 2077 delayed again. We've got an Assassin's Creed show going to Netflix. We've also got all of the PC specs required to play Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, and guess what? It's definitely a chaotic situation with that one too. And of course, we talk about the surprise with Resident Evil 3, the Cloud Edition. Again, it is October 30th, 2020. We're going to roll that intro. We're going to get things rolling. All right, everybody, and guess what? Because it is Friday night and it's the news time, I am joined, of course, by Kyle via Discord. Kyle, hello.
What's up?
Man, I sorry everybody that we missed last week there, but man, I gotta say, first off, I think the biggest thing to say more than anything is it's fun when you forget stuff as a parent, and then a kid shows up and it's like, oh yeah, you're supposed to be staying over with my son tonight and hanging out. It's like, oh, well, I can't really do a news live stream with someone else's kid running around because they go on camera. I'd probably get in a little bit of trouble. You know,
Smooth.
I was going to say, I could speak for my own kids, that too. And of course, for all of you out there as well, you probably noticed that we didn't have a podcast up this week, but a bonus for you is that we will be going live with a recording, or not recording, we'll be going live with our topic podcast tomorrow night for Halloween. And just like Halloween and being all spooky and scary, we'll be covering the top horror games. It's going to be a fun one, especially after looking through the list and seeing what's all on there. I think it's going to be a fun one indeed, so be prepared to tune in for that one. Anyway, like I said there at the beginning, brand new intro there, kind of toying around with some stuff. We have 8 good stories for you for this week to cover, and yeah, it's going to be some fun ones indeed. A lot of delays, a lot of chaos, some neat things, I guess, but let's just hop right into it here with our first one. And whoops, I hit the wrong button there. There we go. Yeah, all right. So our first story for tonight comes to us from The Verge. Cyberpunk 2077 is delayed again to December 10th. Cyberpunk 2077 is being delayed yet again, this time until December 10th. Developer CD Projekt Red says it's still working on a launch day patch for the game, which was previously slated for November 19th. It attributes the delay partly to its multi-platform release, which will see the game launch across 2 generations of console hardware, PC, and Google Stadia. The biggest challenge for us right now is shipping the game on current gen, next gen, and PC at the same time, which requires us to prepare and test 9 versions of it, the company said in a tweet. We need to make sure everything works well and every version runs smoothly. We're aware it might seem unrealistic when someone says 21 days can make any difference in such a massive and complex game, but they really do. Cyberpunk 2077 officially went gold, i.e. locked a release version of a game in early October, and the developers promised via Twitter that no more delays are happening. The release version is still finished, but CD Projekt Red has been developing further updates for the day of the game's release. This is the time period we undercalculated, the tweet says, even after an unanticipated crunch period that seen developers working overtime. I mean, Kyle, what is there else to really add about Cyberpunk 2077 being delayed again? I mean, is it really going to come out maybe in 2077 instead?
You'd be thinking that, but I don't know. I think one of the big holdups we have from it is probably the original Xbox One.
I mean, because it was supposed to drop in what, 2017, 2018? Like, wasn't it supposed to be some sort of like release even a few years ago? Or did I
it
updates?
was supposed to be a couple years ago, but it was originally announced clear back at the beginning of this current generation of consoles that we're about to finish. When they launched is when it was first announced. So
Well, it's interesting though that it's taken us this long to get to this point, but one of the news stories, I don't know how much you've seen so far from this most recent delay. This was not actually shared with any of the development team. This was all from the higher ups, the CEOs and the rest of the executive team, that it had to be delayed. Did you see that part of it?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, so this was a surprise. Like, even some people out there were upset because one person asked the actual Twitter page and said, hey, are you sure that this is going to be released on time here? Because I want to book time off from work and you can't take it back. And of course, then literally they say, yeah, no, that's it. We're not delaying it anymore. You're perfectly fine to go ahead and book it. And then, like, I think the next day is when this tweet came out that said that we're delaying it again. That sucks. That sucks hard.
Yeah.
Especially because I've seen a picture of like Best Buys and I think a couple GameStops that have marketing materials already hung up in their stores that have the November release date on it. So unless they can print out a giant yellow number 2 and stick that up there on the signs, I don't know how much more they can really do to get marketing material printed and reshipped out to these stores.
You know, honestly, what they'd probably do is just ship them a sticker to stick over it to correct the date.
Of course they would. Of course, that's what we would see would be a sticker right over the top of it.
I'm not even joking. Until they send them additional marketing materials with the correct date, or just as a quick fix because it's so close anyway, they might just, send out that and then put out release day marketing for when it actually is supposed to launch. I probably would think that at this point they're like, well, maybe, the people in marketing departments are like, well, maybe we don't actually need the marketing just yet. These guys keep throwing us for a loop. So.
Oh man, no, that's definitely not wrong on that for sure. Maybe they just need to print out multiple numbers and that way just have them ready in the event that things change. They can just keep swapping stuff out. So instead of being sticky labels, instead they just need to be like command strips or that blue poster tack instead. So they are faster at changing these out. Just in case. But it looks like we got another little bit of time to wait. I mean, I think there's plenty of stuff to play when the new consoles launch anyway. So anybody waiting for Cyberpunk 2077, we got a little bit more time to go. Well, there's not really much else to say about that, except let's transition on to the next story here. So Kyle, talk to us here about this next story that we've got. This is at least some good news for some folks about World of Warcraft finally landing its release date.
World of Warcraft Shadowlands expansion arrives on November 23rd, and you can check out the pre-launch event on November 10th. November 23rd marks the 16th anniversary of World of Warcraft, and Blizzard plans to celebrate the occasion by giving you plenty more to do in the game. It'll start rolling out the long-awaited Shadowlands update at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on that day. That's 4 weeks after Blizzard originally planned the release expansion. The studio delayed the rollout of Shadowlands from October 26th to improve the endgame and polish up the expansion as a whole. To whet your appetite a bit more, a pre-launch warm-up event starts on November 10th, in which you can take on a Flood of the Scourge. Blizzard also revealed the Season 1 of Shadowlands starts on December 8th. The expansion's first raid, Castle Nathria, will be available on that date.
Well, then.
Few things to look forward to in the world of WoW.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, if people can't
That's almost redundant. I take that back. It's just WoW. We'll just take it as WoW.
It's like saying ATM machine here, Kyle. It's just, you can't be doing that.
It's the automatic ATM.
The automatic ATM machine.
Yeah.
Oh God. Well, that's cool. At least though, I mean, we had the bummer with Cyberpunk 2077, but now of course we've got a confirmed date for Shadowlands. They've got all the bonuses that they're planning on rolling out for their for all the people who are purchasing the game, at least two. There's a preload patch. I don't know if that went live yet. I think it probably already did to get stuff ready to go. But at least it sounds like it's coming out here, better than it probably was going to several weeks ago. So yay, good on you, Blizzard, for getting that taken care of and ready to go for people. So fantastic.
At least they've done one thing right.
Oh man, they don't have another Hong Kong incident. They don't have another BlizzCon to deal with as well too, which is one thing actually that was supposed to be going on this last weekend.
World of Warcraft 3 to screw with.
They don't have, and we don't have Diablo Immortal on our phones yet. So We're safe
Yeah,
for a little
that's
while.
very true.
Yes, we are safe for a little while, at least until they do release some of these other things. Oh, and Overwatch 2. We're still waiting on that.
I think I've been on the waiting list to hear anything about that for like over 2 years. It seems like.
Dude, I think 2020 in itself has been a decade, so that's really what it feels like, regardless of anything that's going on. Game coming out, console coming out, everything. So it feels exactly like that. Next story here. Woo, this is fun. We're actually rolling through this pretty well here. Next story we got on the list right now is Borderlands 3. Little bit of a surprise drop on this one, but honestly, not that much of a surprise. So the story here comes to us from Polygon. Almost spaced it, even though I was looking like right at it. It's like I looked right through the logo. So right from Polygon, Gearbox shows off Arms Race, the new Borderlands 3 co-op battle royale alike. And I like their comment here because sure, why not? Borderlands 3
Battle Royale alike, huh?
Battle Royale alike, yeah, it's sort of like one. Borderlands 3 has a big, expansive setting compared to the other two games, and it's about to get a little bigger. Gearbox announced Arms Race, which is the galaxy's premier reality murder show. Arms Race takes place on a new map. Much like the Battle Royale games, players will drop into the map with no gear, abilities, or tools. Then they'll search the map to find power-ups and race towards the final section of the map. However, this is a cooperative roguelike mode, and players aren't brawling with other squads of players in a game like Apex Legends. Instead, they're working their way through the Storm-Blind complex, fighting off AI enemies. Players can only revive each other, at certain points. I can't even talk. And if everyone dies, the match is over and all loot is lost. Arms Race is primed to take advantage of some of the best parts of Borderlands, which is promising. In Polygon's review of Borderlands 3, Polygon, of course, they did praise the gunplay. Let's see here. So, kind of carrying on again, the mode starts as the usual four characters, and Axton and Salvador from Borderlands 2 serve as announcers. The catch is that the players, if they survive the map and its murder cane, or murder hurricane, get to keep the loot they earned along the way. So, it sounds like for anybody who's currently playing Borderlands 3 right now, or continuing to play that, you're going to be able to at least build up some of your weapon cache as you move on through through this battle royale like game, or at least game mode, excuse me. So that's coming out here on November 10th, which for all of us, we already know is the is launch day for both the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series S and X. So fantastic, at least some more stuff to play. But if it's not like a battle royale, it actually it's not a battle royale, but it piques my curiosity. I mean, it's the fact that you can at least keep the loot that you do get is kind of cool. I'm not far enough into Borderlands 3 anyway to feel like I need to get, that, I feel like I'm behind. So a lot of the stuff I get will probably help me out, except it may be stuff I can't even use because I'm not high enough level to even use it in the first place. I mean, what do you think on this? Do you think this is a pretty good addition, like a neat change for what they're doing, or should it have been like an actual straight up Borderlands battle royale?
I don't know. It'll be cool as an addition, I think. I don't know about another just straight up battle royale.
I guess part of the issue is that they only have so many characters that you could probably play as in the battle royale that maybe like it makes some sense, I guess, when you look at things like Apex Legends. The characters do have their own stories, but unless they brought in the characters from Borderlands 1, 2, 3, some enemies in that to be able to make up a larger roster, they probably could get away with it. But if they're going to stick with just what's in Borderlands 3, then, I mean, picking out your characters and trying to do loadouts and such probably would get pretty stale. So yeah. Very interesting, though, for sure to see.
Maybe thinking more about it, I don't know if it's something that would work with Borderlands 3. I mean, the idea of it's cool, just being able to show off the variety of guns and stuff. But beyond that, I don't know.
Yeah. I think that would be about its only real value, is that if they were showing off like all the different guns, because Borderlands marketing tactic anyway, or at least the big kicker about their game, is the number of guns that are actually in it. So this is a way, I guess, to showcase some of those too. Like just exactly like you said, I think that's perfect. So
Yeah, I was actually
Yeah.
going into my Steam thinking second season pass. Do I have the second season pass? Because I got the ultimate edition of the game, so I don't know.
Mm-hmm. No, I understand.
Makes me wonder. Because I feel like something like that. It it's such a minor thing anymore. It almost should have been just included with the core game. You shouldn't have to have this any season pass to play that. As
No.
long as you have the core game, I think it'd be a cool addition to just be like, oh, hey guys, you can just check out the extra guns that you've maybe never seen or, had a chance to pick up because your inventory was full or something, and just throw it to the fans.
No, I think that's actually a very excellent argument for what they're doing with it, and that it's kind of bizarre because
Yeah.
if you had a whole player base that played Borderlands 3 and now they've been done playing it for a while and you want them to come back, why would you make them pay the extra money for it when the Battle Royale model has been essentially just release it for free? At least as of late, not necessarily in the realm of PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds, but Fortnite, Warzone, Apex Legends, all of those free, and have brought people in or brought people back. So yeah, it's very weird. It's bizarre to me why they would charge that. I mean, what's the actual cost of the pass? If you know off the top of your head, unless you're looking right now.
I don't know off the top of my head, but
Hmm.
Steam's open on my computer. Let me check the store page because I was just looking at it.
I've got to
Might as well
imagine.
see if I've got it.
I gotta imagine at least maybe
Um,
$20, 25.
Season pass. I'm just seeing the regular season pass on here.
So you're not seeing anything there for this season 2 pass at all. Let's see,
Um,
season 2 pass, Borderlands 3. Borderlands 3 season pass 2. Uh, it does not show a
yeah, I don't
cost.
see anything for a cost or anything.
30
So I wonder if
bucks.
it's just, huh?
30 bucks.
$30?
Yeah, I just found it.
Wow.
Yeah, so from this Mental Mars site here, just this little snippet from Google, it says the second season pass for Borderlands 3 contains 2 big content packages. These will give you new ways to play the game. Season Pass 2 will be available on November 10th, 2020, and will be available on the launch consoles for $29.99. 30
Wow.
bucks. 30 bucks like for
Just milking you because the regular season pass is already uh what normally $50, I think.
I think so.
Yeah, because I'm what can't see. Yeah, my eyes are going too bad. I guess I can't see the marked out price. That and my screen's kind of crummy on this computer, but right now it's on sale for $39.99 and it's 20% off. So
So I wonder if the overall season pass might cover you for any other subsequent ones that come out, and then they sell these other ones separately. It says here, yeah, it looks like for the season 2 pass, you get new skill trees, the new game mode, and then there's some more stuff that they're also releasing as part of this. Yeah, so 30 bucks just seems overkill for what you might
they're
be getting
just
with it.
milking this game for all it's worth.
Unless the content is enough to get you more than like if you can get about 10 hours of story like out of the additional content there, and then the bonus weapons and that through this arms race mode, it might actually show its value. But if you run into that issue where you go and spend the 30 bucks and you get maybe like 3 hours additional to the campaign and then you get the arms race, people are going to be mad. People are going to be really
Yeah.
frustrated with it unless they say later on, it's like, oh, well, you bought season 2 pass. Here's this other thing we've been working on too. And, it's several months down the road. Okay, cool. That's understandable. But at least right now, it doesn't look like a value. It really doesn't look like you're going to be spending your money wisely when doing this. So I'm I can't really understand or see here why Gearbox is doing this other than just needing some money. It's going to be interesting
Yeah.
to see if there are any sales figures released too, but I don't know if there really will be. So, interesting to say the least.
Very much so.
Yeah, now we move on here, and Kyle, I'm actually pretty sure that this story is going to frustrate you, even on, as you read it. I don't really expect tears, but I don't know necessarily. This one is talking about Far Cry 6, and of course, because everything in the world has to kick the crap out of us, Far Cry 6 has been delayed. So, Kyle, tell us about this story here from Games Radar Plus about Far Cry 6's delay.
Yeah, now delayed between April 2021 and March 2022. There's also a new release window for Rainbow Six Quarantine. Far Cry 6 has been delayed. Ubisoft announced today and is now scheduled to release at an undetermined point after April 2021. The announcement comes by way of Ubisoft financial call earlier today on October 29th. As you can see below, I don't know if you've got it pulled up. You do. Okay, cool. In the screenshot from Daniel Ahmad, Far Cry 6 has been delayed from its original release date of February 18th, 2021, and is now set to launch at some point in the next successive financial year. That means the launch between April 2021 and March 2022. If you're unfamiliar with the next entry of Ubisoft's franchise, Far Cry 6 takes place in South America in a nation ruled by the Iron Fist of Giancarlo Esposito's character Anton. Earlier this year, Esposito revealed that Far Cry 6 will have multiple endings, and you can make decisions in regard to what happens to his villainous character. Additionally, Far Cry 6 will feature third-person cutscenes. It's not entirely clear who will be playing as in Ubisoft's sequel, but at least we know that we'll actually get a proper look at them in these scenes. Elsewhere in Ubisoft's financial call, a release window for the mysterious Rainbow Six Quarantine was vaguely outlined. We use the word vaguely there because it's slated to release in the same loose period as Far Cry 6, somewhere between April 2021 and March 2022. Since it was first unveiled last year at E3 2019, there's been relatively little news about the new Rainbow Six game. What we do know is that it's co-op PvE shooter, and it'll obviously tackle a mysterious infection of some form. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So, how do you feel,
Badness.
Kyle? Yeah, I was gonna say that seems like kind of a kick to you because you've talked several times about how much you like the Far Cry games, that you really enjoy seeing these, and playing them.
Well, and the Rainbow games as well, and I kind of saw it coming in the first place, and it's funny that you posted the news like shortly thereafter that article came out. I'm almost certain because it was like I saw it that day, and it was like a couple hours later. You were like, "Here's the news articles we're covering," and there it was in there. So I was like, "Ooh, there's another stab," but okay, yeah, we gotta cover it.
It's just like, what else is going to happen next? I mean, we've had Halo Infinite delayed, which is supposed to be a launch title for the Xbox. We've had these pushed out now. We've got Cyberpunk being pushed out. I just don't know if my heart can take it anymore on some of these things being just delayed. I mean, it's like, do you want my money now or not? Because I may not have it then. I have it now. I may not have it then. But I'm also one who doesn't believe in pre-ordering games. Consoles, something else. But games, I've learned my lesson a few times. So
Right.
Thanks, Infinite Undiscovery. We won't get into that one, though. So moving on here, of course, keeping some good pace here on all this, actually. I'm really impressed with us on this one. We move on to our next story here, and this one was actually a big surprise that I didn't even see coming. We have a Netflix show, specifically an Assassin's Creed show on Netflix. So this story comes to us, get back to the scene here. This story comes to us from Kotaku. Netflix is making an Assassin's Creed show. Netflix gaming binge continues, this time with a deal to adapt Ubisoft's historical murder sim Assassin's Creed. Announced in a press release today as part of a longer-term agreement to develop content based on the franchise, Netflix's first Assassin's Creed show will be live action, but otherwise appears to be very early in development. Ubisoft's Jason Altman and Daniel Kranick of the company's film and television department will be its executive producers, but a showrunner or scriptwriter has yet to be revealed. Both Altman and Kranick were involved in Apple TV's Mythic Quest, a workplace comedy about a video game studio that launched earlier this year. Ubisoft also currently has plans to turn Beyond Good and Evil into a Netflix movie. Meanwhile, the streaming platform is also working on developing multiple shows based off of Resident Evil. The streaming wars demand endless waves of new content, it seems, and the video games have become the latest front in rich corporations' efforts to get richer. So this was a bomb just out of left field that I didn't even expect to actually see anything in the first place. Like I've known that they were going to be doing a that we had the Resident Evil stuff, that they were successful with Castlevania. We've had The Witcher as well. Mm-hmm. And it's like now we got Assassin's Creed. I guess let me ask you this, Kyle. What video game TV show, like a TV show based on a video game, would you like to see next? If Netflix, Hulu, Peacock, Apple TV, whoever, like which video game do you think you'd like to see as a TV show or a movie?
Deus Ex.
Ooh. Ooh, that may not actually be that bad. Ooh, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
That would be neat.
I think a sci-fi show like that would be kind of sweet. I wonder though, is it too much? I mean, we haven't even seen a trailer for the Resident Evils, have we?
No, nothing yet. Just saying that things are in development. Yeah. That's it.
They're in development. Same with this Assassin's Creed thing. Like it's in development. When do they need to say, hey, we need to pump the brakes, quit announcing shit, and actually just say, oh, by the way, here in a couple months, we've got a new Assassin's Creed show coming out for you guys to check out, instead of, hey, later on down the line, just you wait, like it'll be a year or two, but there might be an Assassin's Creed show we're going to put on.
Yeah, it's very interesting that they would diversify themselves this much. I mean, it's like they could only adapt so much from TV and movies that already exist. I guess video games was the next logical step, but I think maybe they've gone a little overkill in what they've gone with so far. Not saying any of it's bad. I'm just thinking that it's like they've got a lot of properties under their belt. Can they truly deliver every single one of these? And Castlevania was successful. The Witcher was successful. These other ones should be hopefully just the same, but I don't know.
But it also leads me to the question, if they're pumping all of their effort into, the ones that are successful, are they gonna slight the other ones? Is Castlevania suddenly gonna fail because they're putting too much focus on, Assassin's Creed? Are they gonna dump Witcher because all of a sudden Resident Evil, or putting out multiple Resident Evils, day and date with each other is so important?
That's a good question.
What's going to happen in the future for, these?
Yeah, that's a very good question, actually. Could they actually introduce so much overload that they end up dropping the stuff that's already worked? That's a good question. I mean, Netflix does not have an infinite amount of money, so they can only go so far. They
are pretty notorious for canceling things, when they've just heated up in a season, and they might have a season that does good and a season that does really bad, and they're like, oh well, we'll do another season and we'll leave it on a cliffhanger. And then they decide mid-season they're going to cancel it, but all of a sudden it does really well on there. but it's canceled, and they've decided they're done with it. So
Yeah,
I don't know. Netflix is kind of weird about their formula for producing stuff, I feel like.
there's that, and then it's just, I think, overall cost to do it, because they said the Assassin's Creed one's going to be live action. I mean, how did the live action Assassin's Creed movie do? The one that came out, oh, I don't know, what, 5 or 6 years ago? I mean, how did that?
I don't even know. I haven't even seen it.
I've
I've heard that there was like literally probably 20, 30 minutes inside the Animus.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen bits and
So
pieces. I have not actually sat down to see the full thing. Let's see, Assassin's Creed movie. Let's see. Okay, so it was in 2016, and it got a 5.7 out of 10 on IMDb and an 18%
ooh,
out of Rotten Tomatoes. It had a budget of 125 million and made 240 million.
wow.
So it definitely made the money. But yeah, it's interesting. So I mean, that's gonna be interesting to see. Maybe it's gonna be a little bit more affordable when it comes to the smaller screen, but I don't know. It's gonna be very interesting. Like, do they do a whole spin-off on the Assassin's Creed thing, or do they actually retell the stories of Altair and Ezio through Assassin's Creed 1 and 2 and beyond up through the rest of the characters? Do they do that, or do they do something all new like the movie did? It's going to depend. And then, of course, it's, do the fans like anything like that either? But I'm not really sure. So, okay, well, Netflix, good luck. We'll tune in and check it out, and then we'll criticize it probably heavily.
I just hope you do whatever is best that you think that will be faithful enough to the fans to keep them around to watch it, because that's who's going to be watching it mostly, I feel like.
Yep, don't pull a Game of Thrones on us. Just don't.
Right.
Because that'll piss off enough people. Anyway, in the grand scheme of pissing people off, or at least throwing around some confused looks, let's move on here to this article, actually from the Call of Duty blog, talking about there's a PC launch trailer, and then, of course, it actually talks about the specs required for your computer to render this as high as 4K Ultra high resolution. I mean, you're talking chaos here on these ones. So I guess let's just kind of break some stuff down here, Kyle, and take a look at this. Oh, and of course, I need to shrink down the page here a little bit. Let me adjust Chrome here because it's definitely hiding some things. You know what? Forget it. I'm just going to do this. Tell you what. I'm going to move on here. I'm going to move us. Let's see. I hate having to do this live, but I don't care right now because I need to make sure that this is displaying properly. Let's see. I need to unlock you and you. Okay, let's see. Kyle, you go there. I will go.
I'm just kind of watching you screw with it.
Yeah, you're watching it live right now.
Yeah. While you're talking, were you jumping straight into the specs, or were you going to read through everything? Because
I was going to kind of bounce around a bit because I think the specs are definitely something to really focus on in here. This is a very interesting one to look at for sure, and I think the specs is what's messing with some people. So, I mean, we could read through some of it, though. I don't know exactly what to read off on here, actually. You know what? Let's just jump right to the specs here just to kind of talk about this. I think
where we need to start is let's go with the minimum and then jump straight to the Ultra RTX, so people get an idea of what kind of spectrum you're looking at here.
Exactly. All right. So in the bare minimum, you need to have Windows 7, an Intel Core i3 4340 or an AMD FX 6300. Now you're talking processors that were released 10 years ago. Maybe more than that. I mean, my kid's computer, my youngest son's computer, is using a FX 8150, which is definitely better than this, but that's for just minimum specs. 8 gigs of RAM, and then on your hard drive, multiplayer only needs 50 gigabytes. But this is where the real kicker is: 175 gigs total for all game modes. 175 gigs, Kyle, for one game, for minimum specs.
Now, that's kind of a little boggling because, a lot of the computers that would be operating from 10 years ago with, these specs, that's a sizable chunk of the hard drive.
Yeah, I agree. Could my kid install this on his computer? Yeah, he's got the space for it. Would I want him to try to run this game at all? No. I could only imagine the amount of fan
Yeah.
noise coming off of the computer just trying to cool itself down from this. I mean, you're
Right.
talking about some sort of obscene amount of space here for a game. I had to go buy a M.2 solid state drive just to try to troubleshoot some of my performance issues with Warzone.
Oh, wow.
Like I did, I bought a 512 gig M.2 solid state drive for my computer and upgraded my RAM from 16 gigs to 4 sticks of 8 gigs of RAM, so 32 gigs total. What the hell, man?
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. God. Okay, so that's minimum. That's minimum specs, which means you're probably not going to be getting more than maybe, even at low settings, 45 to 50 frames per second, probably at most. I mean, you're playing on a potato.
Yeah.
Okay. So Kyle, what's in the recommended then? This is going to be interesting here to see what they show off.
You want the recommended, or do you want to jump to the ultra?
You want to go up all the way to the top? I mean, you're more than welcome to. This is just nuts.
Okay, because I could go to recommended. Recommended is Windows 10, of course. The Intel i5 25K or an AMD Ryzen 5 R5 1600X, 12 gigs of RAM, and 175 gigs at launch. That's just recommended.
Yeah. And you're talking GPU, either a GTX 970 or a GTX 1660 Super, or a Radeon R9 390 or an AMD RX 580. What these are? You're talking like graphics cards that are old, like
But
old now.
yeah, but I mean, you jump up to the we go to straight to the Ultra RTX specs. All right?
Yeah. Okay.
And you're looking at the Intel i9 9900K or an AMD Ryzen 3700X, 16 gigs of RAM, and then 250 gigs of hard drive space with a GeForce RTX 3080.
250 gigs of space just to get ray tracing and 4K. Holy
Yeah.
shit.
Now, when you're talking that, a terabyte of solid state, uh, we're talking Gen 4 M.2, is what? They're going for like 200,
Mm-hmm.
right? Uh, that's a quarter of that space.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking like
That's gone.
So one
And you're
terabyte.
pretty much going to be having to use a solid state drive on this game.
Yeah. Oops.
I don't see any way that it could run on a standard hard drive and have sufficient load times to do anything. You would waste the entire day loading the game up.
Yeah, so this I've never really heard of this brand before, but on Amazon, Sabrent has a 1 terabyte NVMe 4.0 Gen 4 PCIe M.2 SSD on sale right now on Amazon for $200. Regular list price $320. Are you fucking
Sabrent's
kidding me?
okay.
Okay, I guess I can deal with that, but it's like, are you kidding me though? That like if you really want to make sure this thing, you want to make sure this thing performs better, that you're gonna have to spend that kind of money to at least throw an M.2 in. I bet you that's probably what it needs because it says just 250 gigs of hard
Yeah.
drive space. You're gonna see people putting this on SSDs to get that extra boost.
Well, and you figure people on console are going to be playing on SSDs. I
True.
know that they had to do a patch that I even noticed in multiplayer on Call of Duty that if you were playing gun game, you actually now have to like hit a button to join in the game after you've loaded, because people with SSDs that were playing on PC and had faster connections, that they were getting into the match and they'd run around to the spawns and they would kill everyone, a good one or two times. So they'd start the match with 5 kills.
Mm-hmm.
Because everyone was still loading in, but because there was no buffer in the in that time period, to like basically load in, and it just automatically forced you to load in before you were fully loaded in. You would automatically be there to die. But I don't know.
Wow.
I think it's a bit crazy.
Yeah.
Can I don't know. Can there be really that much in the game that it needs to be that massive?
I think it's, I think there probably is. I'm just so surprised, though, at least on all of this, that it would require the 250 gigs. But it could be not just the campaign, but the number of multiplayer modes that are in here, any of the updates to Warzone as well, which is something I'm actually kind of curious about myself, like how big the Warzone specific update's going to be, because they're not going to get rid of their bread and butter that they've had so far with their Battle Royale. It's going to be kind of more curious to actually see what comes of, what actually comes of, I want to say here, what actually comes of that,
Yeah.
It's very curious to actually see what's going to happen.
And you figure though, those are
much.
just launch numbers. That's not including any updates or patches or anything that they might add to the game. So that file could get a lot bigger.
Yeah, because how far away are we from launch now? Like it's got to be here pretty soon, November 13th. So that means they would have between now, or at least yesterday when they announced this in the specs, and the 13th, 3 days after the launch of the new consoles, to issue some sort of patch. Which honestly, it's a Call of Duty game. It wouldn't surprise me that we have a day one patch. Would not surprise me in the slightest.
And that makes me wonder: is that patch, or is that file size going to be standard for consoles as well?
It's a good question. That is actually a very good question.
They can maybe fix some of it, but even then, reading off a disc, you're still going to have problems. And then you figure if you're just downloading it, the file size is going to be tremendous anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I just don't understand it though. Even for ray tracing, how do you actually dictate what you're downloading though? Like, does the system read your specs before it goes and downloads the particular files, or do you get a choice that says, I want the ray tracing version, or I want the minimum spec version? Does it actually give you a choice?
I would imagine. Well, if you think about how classic games used to do it, because they really haven't done it, I don't think, in like the past 20 years. You just install the game and that's that. And the game kind of just decides what your system should perform at, and you can adjust it from there. But it used to be that you picked, what kind of install you wanted, whether you wanted a custom, a minimum, a maximum, or the best install.
I wonder if that's what we're going to see coming back.
I remember that from much older games, like in the late 90s and stuff.
I wonder if that's what we're going to see come back. I do remember that as well. I do. It's just we haven't seen it because it just kind of installs it and then the system handles the rest. It doesn't seem like you get to pick and choose. Maybe that's what's going to happen, or it will just automate. It's like, oh, we see you running a Ryzen 9 3950X and a RTX 3080. We're just going to throw it right at you that you get the super duper version. But even some people with the higher tier specs like that don't want the version with ray tracing in it or anything. They just want to be able to play the game and play it, as fast as they possibly can, especially for those who are in the competitive scene. They need it to be fast. It doesn't need to be pretty. It just needs to be fast.
Or, what it might pop up with is, when you go to install the game, it might pop up with a single player campaign, multiplayer, and then RTX assets.
That could be it too. I mean, it could be like we see when you load up Call of Duty or on a PC, like Warzone for example. Like when there's a new update, it has to install all of those shaders too. So maybe it'll install the base game, and then literally based on your specs, it'll just pick. It'll just say, "Boom, here you go. Here is your install for your what your system is set for right now. We're just giving it to you." And then you're stuck waiting for everything to install there, which means just like a day 1 patch or a day 0 patch, you're kind of getting your butt kicked. And it's, I don't know. I still don't really understand it either. I would like some explanation as to why it's so big.
Especially because of the fact that the competitive gaming is so big, I feel like installing the RTX assets would be like something that would pop up as a custom install type thing. Like it would just be an option when you install it.
That's also very true.
Something you have to click extra. Because a lot of competitive players aren't going to install it. They won't want it on there. There's a lot of competitive players that play on the lowest graphics possible because they want the best performance possible.
Yeah, and even John here on our Facebook here is saying the same thing. First and foremost, he says that he likes the setup. He's one of the ones who provided feedback that he wants to make sure that he saw your smiling, pretty face there, Kyle. At the same time, but he also makes the same comment that that those downloads are getting huge. It's become a running joke in the Call of Duty world that it's like, oh, here's a new patch, and it's like it's a 66 gig download for this new thing. 66 gigs? Jesus Christ. I would like to see if there is options there to turn off and disable the functions that you don't need, or if they can separate it out. That's like, okay, you bought Black Ops 2 or Black Ops Cold War and you want to play the campaign. Okay, here's the download for the campaign. Okay, you want multiplayer now? Okay, now you got to download this side of it. Save yourself and stagger all the way up and through. I'm not talking to you, phone. I don't know why my assistant just kicked off. But no, it's let us as consumers make the choice on how we're doing, if we can split these things up, but I don't think we're going to get that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on here. I think we can go on and on about everything we needed to with Call of Duty there. But let's move on here to our second to last story for tonight. And it's talking about Final Fantasy 16. The story comes to us directly from the PlayStation blog. And of course, as you can see, I'm still stuck here in the whole chaotic setup of the screen here. So Kyle, I'm going to fix OBS here while you tell us about what is going on in the world of Final Fantasy 16.
Introducing the world and characters of Final Fantasy 16. How Mother Crystals, Dominance, and Acons fit into the world of Listhia. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's Final Fantasy, so who knows? Hello, everyone. This is obviously a message from Naoki Yoshida, producer of Final Fantasy 16. Everyone in the development team is currently working together on a massive scale to bring you all new game worthy of Final Fantasy name. Our next major announcement is planned to take place in 2021, but ahead of that, we revealed the Final Fantasy 16 teaser website today. In the teaser website, they've included a lot of new information and artwork to introduce people to the world in which the story takes place and also the main characters of the game. A land blessed in the light of the Mother Crystals, Final Fantasy XVI's adventure takes place in a land of Listhia. I'm going to just say that with a lisp now, just to make sure I'm...
Valethia.
I don't know. That sounds okay.
Valencia. Yeah, I think you're probably getting close. Yeah, I can't do it without a lisp.
Which is studded with colossal mountains of glittering crystals called Mother Crystals. These Mother Crystals have towered over the realms and around them for generations, blessing them with ether, and the blessing of the Mother Crystals has allowed these realms to thrive and their people to live in comfort. Countless wars have been fought over the Mother Crystals all around the land, leading to the rise of nations such as Grand Duchy of Rosaria, the Holy Empire of Sambreque, uh, and the Kingdom of Wallode, and the Dalmatian Republic, and the Iron Kingdom, each with their own culture and ideology. Ongoing skirmishes have forged an uneasy peace between these nations, but with the emergence of these ruinous blight, the fragile peace is starting to deteriorate. And then we just go on to talk about the characters, and we did find out about the new three characters: Clive Rosenfield, Joshua Rosenfield, and Jill Warwick. Of course, the two are brothers. I'm just kind of skimming through the article at this point because it is more of an introduction to everything. But Clive is actually the main protagonist of the game. Is what the article does go on to say.
Okay.
And then let's see. Does say the Echions and the Dominants that threaten the world. For those familiar with the series, you may know Echions as summons. They are without a doubt the most powerful and destructive lethal creatures in Vastia, wielding powers that can level nations. Acons reside within special beings called dominants. How dominants are treated depend on the realm in which some they are revered as royalty, while in others they are sent to the front lines as weapons of war. So I don't know. This will be kind of a different kind of torn nation, torn culture. I feel like in this one.
Yeah, I think that's really what this is setting it up for, and I don't know if we've really seen like a torn up culture like this probably since like Final Fantasy 12, because that was really a whole thing with the judges and the torn up. God, I've played this game too. With the torn up main country there too, that ended up having to change around and pledge allegiance though too. So and you're trying to restore that country, that kingdom back to its former glory.
Well, and we are finally returning to more of a fantasy-style game in this iteration of Final Fantasy as well. It takes place in more of a medieval setting and scenario rather than these steampunk, dystopian nations that we've seen so often in a lot of the more modern Final Fantasy games.
Which a lot of that you can really attribute more to Final Fantasy VII, probably, right?
Mm-hmm. And I think it has to be attributed to the popularity of 7 and
Agreed.
All the popularity it generated.
Agreed.
Because I feel like 8 wouldn't have been as big without 7. 7 was a breakthrough for the PlayStation, and it held a place in a lot of people's hearts. So I don't know. It'll be cool seeing this on the next gen consoles. Especially the way those Acons look.
Yeah, those feather textures on there are actually looking pretty crisp. But just imagine it with ray tracing, though.
It'll still be a summon to me.
That's fine. That's fine. You have played enough Final Fantasy games, and I know Dan has as well. I'm not going to intrude on your understanding of what they are. So, you do you. And what I will do is I will move us into our last story of the evening, talking about Resident Evil 3 and this surprise cloud version. So, probably help if I close out of the previous story. Yes, IGN, I do use an ad blocker. Thank you. Resident Evil 3 Remake could be coming to Switch as a cloud version. A new image discovered by Reset Era users reveals that a cloud version of Resident Evil 3 Remake could be coming to the Nintendo Switch. Nintendo has dabbled in cloud gaming to bring games that likely otherwise wouldn't be playable on the Switch to the console. It begins with Resident Evil 7 in 2018 and was followed up by Assassin's Creed Odyssey later that year. Those two cloud games are only playable in Japan, but yesterday Nintendo launched Control on Switch as a cloud game and revealed that the upcoming Hitman 3 would be a cloud game on Switch as well. Resident Evil 3 might be the next game if the image below is any indication, which honestly I look at like that picture there like with the cloud version text on it, and it looks more like a someone just like took a box here, added a little bit of a lens flare on it here, you know, like a light or something on it, just typed in cloud version, but maybe that's how they're supposed to look. I don't know.
They just did a really bad Photoshop job.
It's very possible. The image above was discovered in this Reset Era thread by user JQuee, as reported by Kotaku, and it was found on the website used by the company behind the Switch's cloud capabilities, Ubitus Game Cloud. It's important to note that the existence of this image doesn't necessarily imply a cloud version of Resident Evil 3 is coming. Perhaps it was in the works but has since been canned. Perhaps it is a mock-up image for the simple possibility. It's anybody's guess at this point, but it matches earlier rumors this year after modders discovered code in the demo that references the Switch back in March. Game analyst Daniel Ahmed said around the same time that a cloud version for the Switch was being explored, but that there were no plans for a native version. If you're looking how to test out how a potential Resident Evil 3 cloud version might run on the Switch, you can try the cloud version of Control right now. Sometime in the future, you'll be able to play Hitman 3 on the Switch as a cloud game as well, although there is not currently a release date for that. So that means that Resident Evil 3 is probably going to be gracing our Switches here at some point in the near future, but I'm curious to find out if, like, how well it's going to play. Have you tried Control yet on the Switch? Have you tried the cloud side of stuff yet, or no?
No, I haven't, and I probably won't. I have Control on my Xbox, and
Okay.
I bought the Ultimate Edition for PC. I'd prefer to play it on PC anyway, but I feel like this is a really weird move from Nintendo. Um, allowing this. Maybe that's just me. Maybe not. Just because it does allow Nintendo players to have access to games that they wouldn't normally have access to, that wouldn't fit on a card, or it would be too intensive for the system to actually process.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I feel like to put it out in such a way, it's even bizarre for Nintendo to allow. Like, I feel
Mm-hmm.
like Nintendo's always one to try and, if it's something big, push for something physical,
Yeah, it's
Because Nintendo's a company about collectibles. That's what they started at, as a collectible company.
right. I just wonder though if
And
they're
I
trying to
feel
test
like
out the waters, though.
yeah, and I feel like that's something that's Nintendo's leaned into, and maybe I could be mistaken, but I feel like in the more recent years they've really leaned into the collectability of Nintendo products. And
Mm-hmm.
they know that, they're creating something collectible. And for them to put out something that could be so limited, something that could get shut down, and you only have access to um, at limited times. You
Yeah.
can't necessarily take Control on the go. And I've heard that people that have tried it, the launcher is like only a few megs. It's less than a gig.
Right.
So you're not downloading any assets or whatever. You're just downloading the URL to the portal, um, of where you can access the game.
Yeah, and it'd be curious to find out if this is just kind of testing the waters for maybe that Switch Pro that we've been hearing about for a long while now, that it's like the Switch Pro will be able to play these games natively without having to use something cloud related, but because Nintendo doesn't want to alienate their existing Switch owners, they're trying to really test out the waters on the cloud feature before they move up to the next gen of the Switch. You know, that might be their choice. in how they're actually handling the testing of this, whereas Microsoft with xCloud hasn't really had to worry too much. They've had to actually test the platform, but Microsoft being the company that they are, this was just kind of a logical step for them to do, and they've been successful with it. So I think it's just one of those that Nintendo's trying it out. They're always about the new things to at least test, and they're usually at the forefront of stuff. But this time they're really not. They're just kind of playing some catch up here. And they realize that their console's underpowered enough that they have to, in essence, do this to be able to at least provide some of their players, something different.
And if that's the case, I'm okay with that. But I also kind of wish they could release like some way, even if it was, just bigger cartridges. Like figure out a way to make a bigger cartridge. Just I don't know, with partial data on it, because I feel like the people that want to play these games, they don't want to be pigeonholed into being stuck near a Wi-Fi connection.
Mm-hmm. Or even allow for offloading of the game itself, to the micro SD card. Not just a larger cartridge, but offload it, because if the micro SD card has enough speed to it to actually help do that, as long as it acts like, an SSH key is an example, where it's like, here's your public key as an example, that's the actual Switch cartridge. The public key is actually your micro SD card that has the game files on it, or at least the majority of the game files. But then your base game files and your actual authentication to be able to, your private key is on the Switch cartridge. And if you don't have both of those together, then you can't play the game. But as long as you have both those together, then everything should load up just fine. I just figure it should be able to read the assets, but I'm just kind of speculating and guessing.
I don't know. I think I'm probably just getting hung up on little things. It just feels like a Stadia move to me.
It does, but
that's all it is.
Right.
But I guess to the same effect, I am glad Switch players will be able to experience some of these games. I don't know. I'm still a little iffy about owning content that can just go away. With Steam and some of those other platforms, I don't mind so much spending lots of money on games for my computer, because like Steam, I know isn't going to go anywhere anytime soon.
But the thing is, at least, is that Nintendo has been a game company for so long. Obviously, of course, they have to retire things as stuff goes on, but maybe this might just be the next thing where they don't have to, that they may not actually do the retirement. I don't know exactly. I can't really speak for them on that part, but it's just something, that maybe they won't on this one.
But then that also comes down to, who will have the license to host it, even if Nintendo's doing the hosting, how long do they have the license to actually host that product? Or that gets into a whole nother legal scenario of licenses and hosting licenses and properties and whatnot.
Yeah, and even John says the same thing here. He's like, "Look at me, I can cloud too. I'm cool. I'm hip." And that's really true. The cloud is for everything. And of course, he also said kind of what I was leaning into is it's like, might help a limited console to pump better engines to the screen, which that's really the point of the streaming side of it, is that you don't really let the console itself do the heavy lifting. You let the server in the cloud do all the heavy lifting for you, and you just make sure your console's hooked up to the internet the right way and just let it push the video up to your monitor or your screen. That's it. So that's kind of a given. And then Alex came back here and said, he's like, that's why better than 90% of my gaming is on PC now, because the platform companies have lost interest for the most part in backward compatibility. That's also a very true thing too. And it's also very possible that maybe Nintendo could use this to their advantage to actually release more backwards compatible stuff through the cloud, so that way they don't have to go and try to redevelop anything in their consoles to actually handle backwards compatibility. Like how we've got the issues with the PlayStation 5 coming out, and it's not going to really have a lot of the backwards compatibility. The Series X is going to have a lot of that backwards compatibility. But for Nintendo, it's really not. It's honestly just rebuying games unless you keep those old consoles. That's part of it itself. So Alex definitely makes a good point on there, but it could lend into them doing more of this.
Well, and you think about like the compatibility and stuff too. Um, on PC, there there are companies that pick up the digital license to sell stuff all the time. Like when Steam picked up the digital license for the original Battlefront, um, they put out a patch for it that it no longer used GameSpy Arcade since it hasn't been used in years.
That's right. I remember that.
So, I mean, on PC, there's a lot of like revitalization in backwards compatibility too.
Right, right. There's also, like you said, in the licensing, it's not necessarily just like who has the ownership of the game. It's also stuff built into the game too that comes down to licensing. Like, look at the patch they had to release for Alan Wake for PC. At least I think it was specifically PC. Is that they lost the licensing rights to the music, and the music
Yeah.
had to go away. There was also the fight for licensing rights on the music in the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 remake. That was something that came out, and they were actually able to license, I think, over 90% of the music that they originally had in the previous Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 games. But no, I agree. That's actually that's a very big thing when it comes down to the licensing. And I guess, not every company is as immune as your big game companies themselves, like Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo. I'm thinking more like, look at what happened. I mean, this was their own fault, but look what happened with NVIDIA GeForce Now. Their beta allowed for the games to be played and streamed wherever, as long as you owned them and they were into your Steam library or one of your other PC launchers. And then as soon as they went public and had all of these games that could be played, the companies came out and said, no, you don't have our permission to do this. You did not sign a licensing agreement for this. You got to pull it. And so GeForce Now's catalog went from this to just shrinking down to almost nothing. I don't know where it's at now. I don't know how many games are able to play on that, but it's very it's one of those things that I guess just has to be looked out for, because then in the long run, it's not the companies that get hurt, it's us. They've already made their money. We spent it on something, and now we've lost something as a part of it, though, too. And let's see what John said here. I've bought Super Mario Bros. About 10 times, at least since cartridge. Maybe we should just get smarter as consumers. Exactly. But as things move to cloud, as things move to more of a licensing model where it's like, oh, I've paid $60 for this game. I paid for the digital version. You look at that EULA, and it says, technically, I'm just licensing it. Unless everything were to flip back to being physical, I don't think, and everything worked for everything, then I don't think we're going to ever get back to that point. I mean, even as being smarter as consumers, unfortunately, we're in that time period right now where the nostalgia hits hard and people will go and buy multiple copies of the things they already have. I mean, I have way too many copies of Minecraft. Not even looking at Minecraft, all the Power Ranger stuff I have up here on display. I mean, that's just pure nostalgia. I've got my Super Nintendo Classic down here as well, for games to play these ones again. I've previously owned Super Mario World and Donkey Kong Country and that. And it's like, there they are again. It's exactly that, is that it's like, I don't think necessarily you get smarter as consumers. It's just that we're in a point now where they just feed on the nostalgia so much that they know they can sell a lot of this stuff again. I mean, look at Super Mario, 3D All-Stars? I bought that shit up day one. You bought it
So
too,
did
Kyle.
I.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily, I think, getting smarter as consumers.
I went to buy Pikmin today, and Walmart
Shit,
didn't have
Pikmin.
it.
Damn it. You shouldn't have said that. I
yeah.
hate you now.
I was gonna buy that, but yeah, when I went to the store, they
Damn
didn't
it.
have it.
Yeah.
So I've got to look tomorrow.
Yeah, and I think this isn't to say that consumers are we're consumers here, even with reporting on this. We're not dumb in any of this whatsoever. We know what we're spending our money on. It's just to retain and hold on to those older consoles and to keep things in our possession for as long as we can. Sometimes it's not feasible. Sometimes it's not possible to do. And that's why emulation has been as popular as it has, regardless of how shady it is. it has been a popular thing to allow for having
Mm-hmm.
a one-size-fits-all box, which really is your PC, or if you're someone who goes and installs like RetroPie on the Raspberry Pi, that's the way you're able to at least feed into it. Now, it does take money away from the game companies who made those original games, whether or not they exist anymore. But in the long run, though, you now reach the model of the one size fits all, where you can play Sega games on the same machine as Nintendo games, as the same machine as PlayStation 1 games, all the way through, all the way back to like the Atari 2600 if you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
That's I think where it more so comes into. It's just that it's the ease of convenience for customers or for consumers to go and buy the same game over again because like, oh, okay, I don't have to do anything except buy the game for this console that I already have, and just pop it in and play. Whereas those of us, Kyle's one of them, I'm one of them, John, I know of course you're one of them as well too. Alex, I'm not sure about you, and for all of our other viewers as well, there's a lot of us out there who will take the time to get the Raspberry Pi set up to do all of this. Is it going to be perfect? No, but it's definitely better than trying to go find these older consoles or then in the long run rebuy every single one of these games again too. And Alex says here, game presentation in many areas wouldn't be happening at all if not for emulation communities. Or game preservation, excuse me. The text is a little small here on the chat window. That's
That's
exactly
very
it.
true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's games
Yeah.
that I can't go buy for myself because they're games that aren't made anymore. I have to rely on emulation from time to time because it is things I want to show my kids that they're not used to with that. A cartridge, okay, for them with the Nintendo Switch, that's something that they can get used to, but they won't experience the joy of wondering why a Super Nintendo cartridge, when it's put in, won't boot up and you have to blow out the bottom of it. Or that the PlayStation
Yeah.
1 had a really funky CD playing menu that you could just throw CDs in and just enjoy it, or, get scared by the boot up sound of the PlayStation 2. You know? So it's you're absolutely right there, Alex. And again, we're not trying to argue with you, John, either on just being smarter as consumers. I think it's just how the content is presented to consumers and what's the ease of use to get that content again in your hands.
I don't know. I think the biggest takeaway from me is it's a little bit different than purchasing a game on Steam, whereas I'm purchasing the digital license. And I look at Resident Evil 3 cloud version, or I look at Control cloud version, and I'm paying full price of the game for the digital right to the license while it's available,
Mm-hmm.
not to the license as long as I can use it.
Yeah.
There's a certain limitation there that I I just don't like, um, and I think that's the big hang up for me.
Yeah, and I think unfortunately, unless there's some sort of law that's passed for consumer protection that says if your system goes under, like your company goes under, that you have found a way for continuity to exist, at least that you can sell off your assets and still allow those users of your platform to be able to access their stuff.
Yeah,
I think there needs to be some sort of consumer protection law in place to do that. We have it for everything else. Why the hell don't we have it on this? And that's a really interesting
right.
thing to look at and probably research on our own. But anyway, great comments from you guys there on this one. Definitely helped to kind of continue the conversation on this one because I think it's a big one as we carry on into re-releases and that too. And whether or not anything else is there. But that was supposed to be our last story, but I want to actually add another one here, Kyle, just really
Hmm.
quick. I will try to share the link with you if I can without, I don't know, revealing stuff from Discord that I shouldn't. Let's see. Where is his thing here? There is Kyle. Yeah. So I want to make sure that we actually do talk about this one a tiny bit.
Oh, this is
Yeah.
this is one that is changing. Oh, for me especially.
Oh man, it makes me want to. It makes me want to um, makes me really want to go spend some more money. But really quick, last comment here from John before we move on to this topic or this last story. Steam is licensed by the user, not by the game. So interesting. We are not protected because we as gamers are poor. We spend our money on games. Who will think of the gamers? Fair enough. I think that's a great one. And John, you have definitely earned the top there, or this one, as our pinned comment for today's episode. But again, we are going to move into here actually into this as our last story, because this was definitely some big news this week, both in regards to power and price. This story here comes to us from PC Gamer, and this is talking about AMD Radeon RX 6000 graphics cards. AMD RX 6000 series has been unveiled with 3 new cards, each offering more gaming performance. Oh, I gotta pause that because that's gonna bug the crap out of me. Than we've ever seen from a Radeon GPU. These are serious enthusiast class graphics cards, people. And according to AMD's own benchmarks, with sometimes faster performance than NVIDIA's RTX 3080 and RTX 3090. The first 2 cards will be with us on November 18th, 2020, and the real big Navi card, the RX 6900 XT, is coming on December 8th. The RX 6000 series goes by many names. It can get a little confusing at times. The architecture is officially known as RDNA 2, sometimes referred to as Navi 2X by AMD. The graphics cards themselves we now know will be branded under the RX 6000 series banner, likely as the RX 6800 XT and 6800 at first, which, yes, that's already been confirmed. Let's see here. So moving down onto these, the performance side of things. I was actually hoping that they would have some pictures of the spec charts here from AMD. So the release date, of course, again, November 18th for the 6800 and 6800 XT, and we've got the 6900 XT on December 8th. The 6000, let's see, the GPUs here. The RX 6900 XT has 80 compute units in it, while the 6800 and 6800 XT come in at 60 and 72 compute units respectively, and all 3 cards are coming with 16 gigs of GDDR6 VRAM. Where is the performance chart? I was hoping they actually had it here somewhere. Yeah, here we go. Okay. So let's see if these actually expand just from my stuff here. Come on. Fine. You know what? We'll just zoom in to the web page like old folks here. Okay. So looking here at the chart for the Radeon RX 6800. So again, this is the low tier one that they've announced so far. We've got where their games come out at least, of course, with this is what I think 4K 60 frames per second. With their new smart memory access, which is only going to work with their new Ryzen 5000 series processors that they announced a couple weeks ago. But Battlefield 5 on Ultra can get up to 98 frames per second versus the RTX 2080 Ti at around 80 frames per second. Games that people are playing, of course, really right now more than anything is like Call of Duty Modern Warfare gets around 65 to 70 frames per second on the RTX 2080 Ti, but the 6800 gets 77 frames per second. Okay, so those are some pretty good numbers there, especially, and you can see the other numbers here. But again, this is specific on this smart access memory to use between the Radeon RX 6000 series graphics cards and the new Ryzen 5000 series processors on X570 motherboards.
Which is a super cool feature, but I don't know. I know there's some people that have problems with proprietary memory, being, you have to have this to be able to use this feature type thing. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, dude. That's super, super cool. Because I was looking at getting a Ryzen card anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And I've got the 5700 XT, which is the current top of the line for for our existing systems, or at least from AMD right now. But yeah, then the 6900 will definitely be the ass kicker. I wonder if I can replace mine already. I only got mine a few months ago too. But on the Radeon RX 6800 XT at 1440p gaming, you've got Doom Eternal going head-to-head at about 216 frames per second on Ultra Nightmare. Ultra Nightmare, maybe those are the settings. against the RTX 3080 at just below it, at probably about maybe 213 frames per second. So it's going head to head on Doom Eternal at its like highest settings for 1440p with the 3080. I mean, you're talking about a card difference, at least in regards to price, by I think about $500.
Yeah, $999 out the gate for their big Kahuna.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, and then of course we come down here and look at the 6900 XT, which is the top of the top right now. That's a $1,000 GPU going against the $1,500 RTX 3090, and that is showing either meeting or beating in the majority of these here, if not at least suffering a little bit, which in all honesty, that's including their new options they're going to have in their GPU or in the actual Radeon driver software. This new Rage mode, which just crazy overclocks your GPU. And then, of course, this also includes the smart access memory. But you think you could play 4K at, imagine playing a game like Call of Duty Modern Warfare at 4K Ultra HD at 102 frames per second.
now you need to pump the
It's pretty
brakes
fun,
though
cool.
on the Rage mode, because AMD did come out and immediately say it is on average about a 1 to 2% noticeable difference.
Which even in games that are like esports titles and such though too, that
Well, yeah, if you're one of those high tuned, high performance players that the 1 or 2% makes a difference.
mhm. Yeah, let's see here. So talking about the smart memory and the rage mode. Let's see. I just saw a mention of other rage mode stuff here though too. Where is it? God, I just saw it here. The addition of smart access memory at the bottom means this isn't the expected performance you get out of every system. This means these benchmarks were taken from an AMD Ryzen 5000 powered PC because the smart access memory feature is something baked into next gen all AMD machine using both the new CPU and the new GPU. It's meant to enhance performance, but AMD has so far only shown it in operation in conjunction with the Rage mode one-click overclocking option that can net you around 13% higher performance. How much smart access memory will net you on its own, we don't know, but in order to consistently beat the RTX 2080 Ti and therefore the 3070, AMD has had to enable it to get these numbers, which it's very possible that right out the box, they might just be enabled from, right off the bat. But do
Yeah.
you think now in what you're going to be doing is, building your PC, do you think this is, you think this is what you're going to do? You think you're going to go 6800? You think you're going to go 6900? What are you thinking?
Well, I've already put it off for like 2 months now, and I was looking at November, and then they say the big Kahuna card is gonna come out in December,
Right.
and I was gonna go with a Ryzen chip anyway.
Right.
So, and I really, really wanted one of the higher end RTX cards before, if that's what I was gonna have to get the graphic performance that I wanted. So I might just wait anyway. I've waited 2 months. What's another month and a half? Uh, you know,
Go big or go home, man. I mean, this thing will
right?
be a beast.
And I my first laptop was an AMD, and I loved it. And my current one's an Intel,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, it's okay. I've never had problems with Intel necessarily, but I really do like AMD products, and I probably will go with the Big Kahuna. So
Attaboy.
yeah, this
Attaboy.
makes me extremely happy, especially saving that $500. Going from 1,500 to 999. That's a lot easier on the
So
wallet.
what you're telling me is that you're going to turn that $500 around to, oh, I don't know, probably some really like high capacity NVMe SSD for Warzone or
Oh, I
something
was
else.
already looking at a 2 terabyte SSD. Yeah, NVMe Gen 4.
Get yourself that extra speed. Get two of them. get some raid going on, get them going as super fast as possible. Forget data recovery, forget the mirroring stuff. Just get that raw speed, and you'll be
Yeah,
fine.
I was thinking like, probably 2 terabytes, and then, another
Be good.
good probably 12 or so in terabytes in just regular hard drive, and just for extra storage and bullshit, and then probably like 64 gigs of RAM or something.
There you go, man. That's going to be pretty sick. I actually can't
Yeah.
wait. Like when you get that thing built, I mean, I want to see you benchmark that shit as soon as you get it all done. Curious to
Oh
see
yeah,
how that
no,
thing hits.
I will probably have to buy Crisis Remastered to see if it can run it on. Can it run Crisis?
No, can it run Flight Simulator?
Ah, that'll be a fun one.
That's gonna be the big one. So that was the last of our news, everybody. Thank you again, as always, for tuning in and checking this out with us. This is by far just always fun to do. This is always fun to kind of dig in and actually kind of hear not only between us, like kind of what we're thinking on what's going on in the news, but also, of course, for all of you who did actually provide some comments here too and contribute your voice to this as well. We couldn't do this without you throwing your 2 cents in as well. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in to this week's weekly news roundup. Don't forget, though, like I said here at the start of our stream, if you would like, we are going to be live streaming our topic episode tomorrow night on Halloween, talking about top horror video games. So please make sure to go ahead and check that out. We'll have that up on Facebook and on YouTube, so you're able to go ahead and tune in. I probably won't be doing any face cam stuff. I don't actually even know if Preston has a camera. I don't know. I'll have to see if he has one duct taped to the side of his computer or something. We'll have to see there for sure. But yeah, make sure to tune into that one, of course. Check it out with us, of course, as we're doing it. Please feel free to comment and talk to us exactly about the games that we're talking about as well, too. It's going to be a blast as long as I can get the soundboard integration to properly work, too. But anyway, thanks, everybody, for tuning in with us here this week. We'll catch you all next week.
Laters.